That's like the people that's like, oh, I own a small business and I'm going to virtue signal about how minimum wage should be raised, but I'm not actually going to pay people more unless I'm forced to. Like, what the fuck?
Yes,
it's like pay whatever you're paying as long as it's legal, I guess. But like, why are you virtue signaling about? Like, there was some guy that was like saying how it was a moral issue and stuff. It's like it's a moral issue, so I need the government to force me to do it. It doesn't add up. If he thinks it's moral to pay his workers more, then he should pay them more. I don't know.
Yeah, and he said we live in when people said, well, why don't you pay your employees $15 minimum wage like you're arguing? He goes, well, his argument was the Joker. We live in a society, which I thought was hilarious. We live in a society. I can't do what my neighbor doesn't do it. I can't do it because
well, he wants to pay them when he's forced to, and then $15 isn't worth as much.
Which according to his stupid theory is stupid because if I'm paying people $15 an hour, but my competition is paying him less money, that means I'm going to get more quality workers coming to work for me. That's how it works.
I saw somebody who's posted, some liberal or lefty, and they were saying, I wish there's different costs of living, and it'd be nice if different states or whatever could do different minimum wages. But oh well, we have to do this fight for 15. It's like, what? Are you not aware that the minimum wage in New York is not the same as the federal minimum wage? What are you talking about?
Yeah, it's different.
Like every blue area has a higher minimum wage because they have a higher cost of living, and then they have liberals that advocate for that policy. I'm not necessarily. It's certainly less. If an area is blue and they want to vote for higher minimum wages and they have a higher cost of living, I'm not fine. Let them do their thing. I'm opposed to them just jacking up the federal minimum wage really high and pretending like it's going to affect New York and somewhere with a low cost of living the same way.
And I might be mistaken. I might be mistaken, but when I had my own business before it was bought from me. I never paid anyone minimum wage. So, and by I didn't have that many employees to begin with. It was like it's one of those businesses where you're pretty much the entire staff, you and a couple other people that work there. So, I'm pretty sure the minimum wage is not the law, but a suggestion.
No, it's the law.
It is. I think it's the law if you have a federal contract or whatever.
Well, no, there are exemptions to it. So it's not that it is a law. It's not just a suggestion, but there are specific exemptions to it. And it might depend on the state.
Yeah.
Like there are certain businesses or whatever you can get around it. There are like waiters can make less than it because they get tips on top of it. So there are exemptions from it.
Right. That was my only example.
In general, it's the law and you have to do it, but there are a few loopholes or whatever you want to call them.
Yeah, because as a young kid, I worked on Greek diners as a waiter and whatever, and I wasn't paid minimum wage, and I wasn't off the books either. I was paying taxes, and it was legit. And the guy told me because minimum wage doesn't apply to you. I just assumed.
Yeah, well, that's like you call it a loophole if you want. It has kind of a negative connotation, but there are exceptions to it.
Yeah. Loophole is the wrong way to put it. It's not.
No, you can say it's an exception.
Yeah, it's not. They're not doing it on purpose to screw us over or anything like that. Certain jobs.
No, it just depends on your point of view, but it's an exception.
Yeah. So, but the point is, a minimum wage. Like, if everyone had the same, if let's say the minimum wage was $25, then pretty much soon. That's going to be all the other prices go up because of inflation, and
then in places like New York and California, people are going to say it's not enough after the inflation kicks in because they're going to have the same minimum wage as they do somewhere with a low cost of living. So it's not going to be enough for the most expensive places anyway.
Well, somebody on Twitter tweeted, and I think I copied you in on that tweet, or you copied me on it. I don't remember. But there's somebody who's from she's from New York, the richest. I live in the richest city in the world, and whatever, in America and in the world. And a coworker needed a couple of dollars to get through the day, the weekend.
$6 to get through the weekend.
$6, some shit in the weekend.
Buy a sandwich.
Yeah, and then she's like shocked that it occurs, and I'm like. If you live in New York City, who's in charge of New York City? It's not the Republicans; it's the Democratic Party. Who's in charge?
I don't know what the job is. So it's like, oh, I have a low-paying job and I live in the richest city in the world. How come I don't have money? It depends on your job. I don't know.
And you don't know what this person, how poor, why this person doesn't have any money. Maybe maybe she's a degenerate
It's
gambler.
not New York City's fault unless she works
Yeah,
for the city.
yeah, like maybe she's a degenerate gambler. When I was poor, and I was growing up, and one of my first jobs
Jimmy
was a.
Dore, by the way, sorry to interrupt. He did
Go
this
ahead.
thing where he's talking about Cenk, who he's at war with, and he was like, he made some offhand comment about it's like he might have like a degenerate gambling problem. He's like,
I believe it. I totally. I know a
like where
few
does all
Turks.
his money go?
Yeah, I know a few Turks that like to play the ponies and stuff. So I totally get that.
Cenk likes to play the horses.